Hi, this is Roman and Joe, and we are two Mastiff Dads, and we're having coffee and talking about dogs. Hi, Joe. Good
Hey,
morning.
Roman, how's it going?
How are you doing?
Very well. Pleasure to be here and talk with you. For me, it's a pretty big deal. I followed you pretty heavy all along. One of the similarities between us seems to be, I'm very holistic in the physical realm, and you are in the mental realm. And I think together we'll have some great insight on the breed and some tricks, and who knows where this is going to go.
Right, it's our first coffee. We're kind of in the flirting mode.
Yeah.
Try to figure things out. So, Joe, just introduce you. Joe Thompson is a multiple Mastiff parent and Mastiff advocate, and you can find him in different places. He's getting organized. For now, you can find him on Instagram on the Fur Beatles one, and then he has attached Facebook page and attached website and attached YouTube. We're going to talk about that. We're just giving you a short heads up. What are we going to work on? I'm Roman with Holistic Dog Training, and I'm a holistic behaviorist and a certified dog trainer. And we both, Joe and I, are basically advocating for dogs. So the reason why we share our knowledge is because we see so much confusion and misinterpretation and myths about mastiffs and how you have to treat them, to the point that just talking about it, I get goosebumps. Can you see that? It's frustrating.
Can I touch that? Stick that up here. They even feel, I can tell, and I feel the same way.
Right.
You do.
And see this, I'm likely you are too in several Facebook groups. In three of them Mastiff groups, I'm kind of like the in-house, holistic online behaviorist and kind of struggling with stuff, and try to give people answers to their question. I see a tendency where people get overwhelmed with the dog's behavior. The dogs grow bigger than they think they would get. The puppies are cute, and then that size is just the eye. And people get overwhelmed, and there is really no parenting education. And I think the reason why we sit together in our kind of coffee setting is because we want people to learn from our mistakes, to learn from our experience, to learn from our bite incidents, and to learn from our mischief, so they become better parents. I would like everybody who's watching that to be better parents than we are. And
Yes.
send us a message that says, you guys suck because I'm better. Bring it to me. I would love to see that. That's not ironic. I really want to people raise their level of Mastiff parenting to their potential. Because back in time, like if we go a little bit historical here, we would go, so let's make an overview. That's kind of like an intro for you guys to kind of get a better understanding who we are and what we're talking about. But we want to have a little bit more structure. So the next session likely we're going to do is we're going to go through the history of Mastiffs to see how they ended up on our table, on our feeding table, like treat or from table. And what was the Mastiff originally bred for? What is the Mastiff history? And there's a lot of stories out there, and everybody wants to make kind of like an impression about having his Mastiff lineage being worse than a war dog, being kind of like a whatever dominatrix or something. But there are truths here. There is scientific evidence where the Mastiffs are coming from. We now kind of discover that this is long history of Mastiff breeds being with people. We will specifically, we will not stick to the English Mastiffs. We're going to talk about the Mastiffs in general. However, Joe is a Mastiff advocate, English Mastiff advocate, because how many Mastiffs do you have?
I have 3 currently.
Okay, give me kind of a size. How many pounds are they total?
Well, we got Harrison, who he was at one point 258, and it took me a year on a 5% fat diet, and I got him down to 245. So he's my largest. And then we've got Ringo. He's 218 pounds. And then we got Paul, and he's 210 pounds.
So
And Ringo is the sire.
Because I'm bad at that.
One of the unique, well, summing that up is close to 700 pounds of Mastiff.
Great. What is your car again?
Honda Pilot. And, you know, funny to bring that up, there was a guy on one of my videos, he made a comment, boy, it sounds like there's something wrong with the rear end of that truck. And I'm like, yeah, you hauled around myself plus 700 pounds of Mastiff, you'd have shocks and springs. And where we go, it just happens. I put brand new shocks in and I destroy them. So I just go without them for as long as I can stand it. And it's just a truck to get us as close to where we want to go as we can. You know, there's some places that might be 8 miles in and it's hot and that's too much for those dogs. So I'll try to get as closer as I possibly can to get us where we're going to go. And then we usually stay overnight and stuff like that. So
Right. So the other way that we wanted to do kind of that coffee chat is for have people open to ask questions.
That'd
So
be great.
it's not just us sitting having coffee. I want you guys, whoever is behind the screen, to grab your coffee and says, hey guys, I'm here having my coffee. I'm in Louisiana. I'm in Canada, Ontario, whatever. I'm in Louisville. I'm in India. We're kind of international here. So tell me where you guys are from, and you can do that in the comments, and I can pull in the comments as you guys, exchange your information. And then later on, as we go, we're open to questions. You can guys actively questions. This is, hey Joe, I like your shirt. What's on it? Or Joe, you know what do you feed? However, our concept would be we start introduction of the Mastiff breeds from a history perspective. Then we go into our daily life circles. Like, how do we have our dogs living in our house? How do we have the settings? How does the yard look like? How are we feeding them? How big are the water balls? What kind of equipment we have to contain the dogs? What leashes are we using? What harnesses are we using? What tools are we using to work with our dogs? And basically our open-end story. So our main theme today is kind of introduction, and I see already some people know exactly what to do. Okay. Hi, Glenda from New Jersey. Hi, guys. Hi, Bridget from Missouri, and Deb from Alabama.
Deb Jones.
Right?
This is my mentor. Hi, Deb.
Oh, here you go. Yeah, anybody else who wants to meet Joe? Here you go. Hi, Diane from California. So, and you guys can share it. Some of you guys watch it on YouTube. Some of you guys watch it on Facebook. So you can share it and invite people from your neighborhood who want to be as good parent as you are. And don't take me wrong. I don't feel that you're bad parents and you're here because you want to learn how to be better parents. We're just having a chat with coffee, right? And
if anything, Roman, I'd like to say most Mastiff owners tend to over-parent, if anything, in a lot of areas, and we'll probably get to that. But
yeah.
There's so much love in this breed and its people that I haven't seen it in any other breed. It's very family-oriented, and they worry so much that sometimes I think they might worry a little too much.
Right. So in our concept, the way we want to have our coffee show kind of thing, our coffee chat, is we want to sometimes bring in professional specialists from different areas, nutritionists. Eventually, we're going to bring a veterinarian who is specialized in Mastiff breeds. So if you guys who are watching us have any one that you say, oh man, you have no idea, this guy knows a lot, he helped me with my Mastiff, or this person is a great veterinarian, he specializes in Mastiff, or this dog food, whatever, you guys are welcome to share it with us, and we're going to talk about it. We definitely will talk about foods. We could definitely talk about home remedies. We definitely will talk about self-help. Okay? We will talk about shit. Yeah, you heard right. We'll talk about shit.
How dare you? This is
well, I see this all the time in like everybody's asking the question, how much poop does your dog poop?
That depends on what you feed them.
Right?
Depends on what you feed them.
Exactly. We're gonna talk about that how does it affect the digestive system. We're going to talk about how feeding and handling and the home setting affect dogs' behaviors. But we want our mastiffs to be well behaved. And as advocates, both sides, we want the mastiffs to be a good representation of the breed. Because I see already tendencies, people are not good enough with smaller, tough dogs. They want bigger, tough dogs. And the mastiffs are getting in the target. And remember when these movies came out about French mastiffs, we're not saying any names for now, everybody wanted that French mastiff. And then we saw another mastiff on TV, then everybody wanted that mastiff, not recognizing how much work it takes to get a dog to behave that way. And we see all these people who have this misconception that, hey, I want a mastiff because that's a great breed. A breed doesn't come on its own. It's just a package that you open up, a breed package, and we have the package in front of you, and boom, a perfect mastiff comes out. It looks the dog lots of parenting. So how do you manage multiple mastiffs in your home?
Oh boy, that can be tricky. A lot of people, they think that it, like you said, it comes they're just going to get along, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's an order to all the things that I have to do. And it's just the way it is. If we're out in the field and I've got two dogs and the one that has to stay home, they're so aware that it's not a good meeting when I come back because there's jealousy issues. I put their bowls down in order. Ringo was the first here. He gets, you can't set 3 bowls down at the same time, and to avoid any jealousy issues or problems. And I've tested it. If I don't do it that way, Ringo gets pissed and tries to take the other. So it's Ringo first. There you go. Your food. Now we go Harry, just in order. And I try to maintain that. And most of the time I bring all 3, but not always. Ringo's getting older and he likes to be left alone. So a lot of times I say, you know what, buddy, have a good time at home alone, and I'll take the pains in the butts out and get them tired. And he appreciates that, I think, a lot nowadays. But you really do have to be careful. You have to pay attention. You have to be fair, just like with kids. They're well aware if one gets an extra scratch behind the ear, and you can ask probably any multiple Mastiff owner on that one. So lots of things you need to do to be specific to the individual dog, the breed. And, Ringo's, he gets his, I come home, I greet him first. And if I don't, it can cause arguing, verbal, and sometimes, a few little scuffles, and it can be scary. It takes a special person to realize the tools it takes to separate issues like that. They're rare, but it happens. And if you didn't have the knowledge to make a loud noise or spray water on them or something to go into it, you're not going to get them uninto it until they're done, until that they figure out their argument. But I slow mode a lot, which is really interesting. When I could, or I had somebody helping me, like my wife, I would try to record a minute or, quick amounts of this. And I've done slow motion, and you'd be surprised in not one of those videos that I happen to capture have I ever seen those dogs actually make physical contact. It's just yelling and kind of jumping around. And it's really quite unique to see that they never actually make physical contact. And that's something it's very rare that happens, but it does when you have multiple dogs. I don't care who you are. So being aware of that, knowing that they are very aware, they're watching at all times, and they know, and they keep tabs. So when it's their turn, it's their turn. So it's difficult, but if you maintain that level of respect and order, overall, I've had very, very few issues to speak of. And keeping them close, making them sleep together, ride together, eat together. All of those things help promote that bond. And they know, like when you're sardined in a Honda Pilot, that if you start some crap, it's not going to go well. There's not enough room. So they're almost, they're forced to get along in a lot of ways. And then lastly, keeping your dogs exercised. and stimulated helps with behavior issues more than I could ever possibly say. A tired dog, a dog that has a job, feels like he did something at the end of the day. He's a happy dog and he's not lacking anything. So at the end of the day, my guys are just very, very happy to take a nap and play with each other and behave. So in a nutshell, every dog is kind of specific, but overall you kind of have to, you let them teach you. Let me leave it at that. They've taught me much more than I've taught my dogs. They have taught me in a lot of ways. So
I want to make something clear to people that we don't have always the same opinion, right? So Joe has his experience, I have my experience, and we will argue about something over coffee, right? So
I imagine,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
I've as a behaviorist, I'm interested to see different struggles from different people. Makes me become better, and that I can share with others, because all of a sudden, one reference of you and one reference of one of my clients, all of a sudden it makes like, oh, wait a minute, I had this conversation yesterday. And then I can ask you questions like, what's going on there? How do you feel about that? So it's basically, we all sit together having coffee, learning how to master not the dogs, but our emotions and our parenting skills. I see many people want to master the dog, but it's the wrong direction. You don't master the children in school. You master your skills as a teacher, and then you share that knowledge with your kids, and the kids become better than you and become teachers, and you learn from them more than they learn from you. And I think we should come from that perspective. So yeah, some people will see us an authority, like, oh, these guys know a lot, but you know what? We don't know your problem. We don't know what you're struggling with. So if we learn from your struggles, then we learn to become better, and then we eventually chat about it and we kind of share some information. You're like, I didn't think of that. You're right. I mean, I could, you know what? Doing that, what you said, and adding that makes even better. I was like, I'm open to that. I want to hear that.
That leads me to an old saying that, it takes a village to raise a child, and nothing could be further from the truth. And
that is truth.
Having these groups and this capability to be able to, like you said, have coffee and bounce ideas, because I don't know everything. There's probably a lot of things I could enhance and get better at and learn. And, from conversations with you in the past, Roman, I've learned different concepts that have helped me a great deal. My biggest problem with these three guys is jealousy, no doubt. I struggle with it just about once every day. And whether it's petting, and I have to be very, I feel I have to be very organized and careful with praise and treats and all of those things. But maybe you've got, some stuff to add to that too.
You're right. They keep tabs.
Yes, they keep tabs.
Right, exactly. Sorry, I kind of snapped out of that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about jealousy. Why are Mastiff jealous? What do you think are jealous? Who of you guys watching us right now have issues with jealousy? You can raise your hand. You can say, I have a problem with jealousy. It's not a big thing, right? We're just sitting on a table. We're not judging. We're just having coffee, talking about dogs. So, anyone? So let's talk about jealousy. The first time I had experience with jealousy, is when I was a child, and my father, got married, and the second time, and all of a sudden, I got a brother, and I know he's likely listening to that, and he's telling like, I knew you hated me, but I had struggles because I felt my brother took away my parents that I really didn't have, like a little bit. And so everything that took my parents' attention away was kind of like very stressful to me. And so I wanted that problem to go away. And I feel dogs, as sentient beings and as emotional intelligence beings, they see their relationship with their handler, with you, as a high value. Now, it comes from a lack perspective. If I don't have his attention, I'm worth nothing. So my value as a Mastiff comes in with my feedback of my parent. And you said it before, the problem of Mastiff owners are usually they are choppering, they're hoovering, they're micromanaging their dogs, not giving them the option to be independent. And this is where the breed trait comes in. Mastiff breeds are independent species, independent breeds. They only need to do is to know what the job is and they follow through the job. So their value comes through their performance. And their performance is the service to the family they are feeling being connected to. So if they don't have a secure attachment relationship with the family, they will not have a clear job description to work for. So they have nobody to work for other than one particular person. And so everybody wants that particular person because the only feedback of their job performance is that particular person rewarding that dog, petting, getting attention. So it becomes a very narrow-minded from a dog's perspective what value is.
Now, just from that little bit, this is what I took away from that. And it was just sort of like you said, you get like an epiphany when you're talking with people.
Right?
And one of the things that's inevitably true, when I had Ringo, he was the only baby. Then we added Harrison. Then we add Paul. And that does change the dynamics of things. And there's no way that Paul per se got as much human gooey and you know what I mean? Just it's in it when there's only one. Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's perhaps why Paul kind of, because if anybody acts out, it's Paul. He is the youngest, 2 years old, but it wasn't the same. It was not the same type of environment. I got more professional with Paul and less dad-like maybe. And so I'm going to take a little bit of that away from what that's what I got out of partially what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I like that feedback. How about you guys who struggle with your dog's jealousy? How many dogs do you have? What is the concept of dogs? I know people who have big Mastiffs and they have smaller dogs, and they have a mini dog and they have a puppy. All these things come together. Um, when I got first of all, I had lots of dogs in my life. Um, Few of them were mine. Most of them were foster care slash training. I did a lot of boarding, so I can remember over my period, I had about maybe 13 or 14 dogs throughout different breeds before I ended up with a Corso, with a Neo, and a Presa Canario. Um, my take was that there are two type of dogs lineages back to the ancient times: the hunting dogs and the guardian dogs. These two lines. People wanted dogs to either go for hunting or companionship. When they were for hunting, they wanted the dog to perform a certain way. So they would choose dogs who are good in leaving the owner and going to get the hunt and then return to the owner and share.
I need to interject. I was just talking with Steve O about this, and he even said within the Mastiff breed. My question to him was, if I make the claim that the Mastiff has the second best sense of smell next to the Bloodhound, is that pretty accurate? And he agreed, but he said it depends on the line of Mastiff. He said some were very well known for hunting, tracking, and things like that, and others for close quarters guardianship. And you have
Right.
to pay attention to that according to, but it was just interesting that I was just talking about that. So I just thought I'd interject.
So when we look back into the ancient times, the science can confirm about 50,000 years from some Greek readings that I read from ancient scripts. I can see we have a tendencies to go back maybe 100,000 years, and we are limited from a science perspective that we have only evidence what is visible to us, and we have a lot of changes and the gear structure. We had whole continents disappearing and flooded. So that information is basically gone and destroyed. So we have only limited access to information that comes out by sticking a needle in the hay and finding another needle. And so from that perspective, so we don't take science evidence as absolute. Science is just to confirm theories, and then there are new theories coming out, and the science is basically following up. But what I see, and we had a conversation in the past, that I read a script about a Native American tribe, and there are many tribes throughout the world, but particular made me very impressed that the tribe had a story, a history, how humanity was created. And they say that there was the God, the original God, their God, and he, once he created the world, he put in a dog, and he habituated the world with dogs as his representative, so he can learn how his creation was and reflect it to them. Because they were emotional, he could get that information from them. And then, once the dog felt comfortable, then he put humanity into it, humans into the equation. However, those humans didn't treat the dog well, so he took away those humans and replaced them with new humans. And I was like, wait a minute, why would a tribe come up with that story? There is always a reality behind a myth somewhere, somehow. Why would somebody come to that conclusion idea while we are struggling that we were the first? They say, well, we not were the first. The dogs were the first. Well, then there were the humans, but then the humans were gone because the first ones weren't good enough. And we brought the second humans. Why dogs? Why not horses? Why not kettles? Why not trees? Why not bushes? So that kind of triggered me, and I said, I want to look into that. What is, for example, what do the Egyptians say about that? What are the Indian, like the Far East talks about? What are the Chinese talking about that? And I collected some information. We're going to talk about that another time. But it was very clear that we and the dogs have a common history together, and we kind of split in hunters and gatherers. So one group of people were hunting to feed their groups, and they're moving around in different places. So they were nomads themselves, having nomad dogs kind of thing. And then we have the settlers who were staying on one particular area, and they will have dogs who were local. So those local dogs have the same concept as the people, so they're sharing emotions here. We want to stay close. We want to stay together. And the other
And
dog,
to
yeah,
interject as proof of that, and one of the things, or maybe not proof, but an interesting way to think about this, is I hear a lot of people, and myself included, that have owned many breeds. And when they come to the Mastiff breed, they say they're so human-like. Their only goal is you, and to be near you, and to protect you, and to be loved by you. And I think through evolution, if you lived alongside, you came from that close quarters settler setting, you would evolve mentally to be more like humans. So
right.
very much so, but and therefore, if you came from the nomadic type, you would be more purpose driven, such as retrievers and things like that. And because of that speciality, perhaps lose some of the human part of things.
Right,
You
right.
can't, it's like a boxer, a guy that's just boxing. I mean, he's like a machine, less
Mhm.
human. He's in, and it's nothing against, but I've owned many, many breeds, and none have had actual facial expressions that I could read on their face, like embarrassment, or when Ringo's disgusted with me, it's very evident. He just looks at me like, I'm just, you can see it. He gets this disgusted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it makes you a better person because you're being called out on some of your even at home, if I get loud like this, excited, and I'm talking to my wife, those boys are right in between, like, hey, no, there's none of this loud talk around here. And overall, even in my own house, I'm quieter, more mellow. just thought I'd throw some of that out there.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing that I see is that let's look about, let's say, 40,000 years of dogs. Okay, let's count them out generations. We talk about 4 million.2 generations of dogs coming back into human life. So we see also that when we have a dog who comes in with us, and there's a lot of evidence that the first period, the imprint period, is how the dog connects and socializes in his close family environment. So we call it like the first um, imprint period, where the puppy recognizes that he is in a family. And don't get me wrong, I don't say that dog puppies, see humans as their dog parents. And so they don't feel human because of that. They feel who they feel. They don't mind who they feel. They are just dogs, what they do. Their breed traits come slowly out. Their needs are being met. But me being a human, it doesn't make me a dog. What we see, though, is that the dog, as he is born and he gets in contact with people and his dog parents and his human parents, we see that he socializes himself and becomes one with that family system. It becomes a family code of conduct. What are we doing? And dogs don't have ego. So a dog doesn't do something on purpose because he wants to be mean to you because you're being a jerk. And so he's being an asshole because of that. That doesn't exist. But there's always a functional behavior. So if a dog sees that you care for him, just as like his mother does, then you're part of the inner family. If you're there all the time and care for him and he feels safety and security, that becomes a secure bond. At the same time, we know from science evidence that dogs and children have only one secure attachment. They only build one secure attachment. So even though parents have kids and children go to father or mother, in case of an emergency, the child will pick one particular person of those two to express his problems. Sometimes it starts with the mother and then it shifts to the father and then it shifts back to the mother. So we have a kind of an active situation going on. Dogs are the same thing. As puppies, they tend to follow the mother. Once they finish their lactation, then their kind of becomes a little bit more self-efficient. They start following idols and dogs who know more than them. So they will play with their siblings. They're playing with the younger siblings and then they play with their older siblings. So now we say, as you said before, it takes a village to raise a Mastiff. If we look in the history, we see that dogs were never owned. They lived in close communities with other people. So they become the family. So it was a village raising a child and it was a village raising a dog, because those villages were basically family oriented. It was kind of a family constellation. But that isn't the genetics. So if I see you every day, you are the village. If I don't see you every day, you are a visitor. You are a threat. You are a problem.
That's very interesting. And another behavior, as you were talking, or something that I was thinking about was, when with Harrison and Ringo, and then Paul is actually raised by dogs and people, where Ringo was not. He was raised primarily just by us. And then you add him, but I mean, there's almost a family within a family, because he has dog role models and people role models, and it has changed him a little. He's different than the other ones. I mean, they're all different, but he's just a little bit different, and I think that might have a little bit to do with it. Paul's life, and I don't like saying this because it is a mistake, has been more function than fun. I know he's having fun, but I guess maybe in retrospect, I should just take him for some ice cream and hanging out once a little more often. So just thanking you, pointing some things out already.
Um, One thing that I see is that we disconnected that information flow. We are blinded by the cuteness of a puppy, and we have this false belief system. Let the dogs be dogs. Let the puppies be puppies. And so we're coming in from a feeling of, well, I don't know exactly what they want, so I'll let them do their thing. They'll figure it out. And we end up in dog fights a lot, where a young dog is just attacking an elder dog, and the elder dog suddenly kind of being upset about it, and all of a sudden we have a snap and a bite and a scratch and an injury. We have to be very clear that the dog is not a parent. Parenting is a level of education. It doesn't come genetically imprinted. I'm not a parent. I'm a son. I have a parent. Doesn't make me a parent because I don't have children. And if I had children, I don't know how to parent them because my parents weren't there. So I don't have that education. So I choose not to have children because I lack of education. Now, some people get dogs, they have no clue about dogs, and they want to parent dogs they don't know about by letting them do their thing and end up in troubles and issues. And I feel we should become aware that it's really about becoming aware that a dog needs parenting. It doesn't have his own parent. You are the parent. And if you don't know how to parent your dog, you have to get educated. It's a false belief system that teaching your dog obedience is parenting. It's not. It's just 10% of driving a car, driving at the speed limit, making good left turns. And how about your morals and ethics while driving? They don't matter. What about morals and ethics causing more lack of morals and ethics cause more accidents than being obedient on the street? Because I have green, I'll drive over you. I have green. That would be obedient.
People are like that too. I mean,
Right.
that's a bad mentality for sure to have.
So I feel being a parent, being a good example, paying attention to your dog, let the dog experience. Sometimes you have to be authoritarian, sometimes you have to be authoritative, sometimes you have to be permissive, sometimes you have to look away from it. At some point, the dog has to have his own experience. Now, we can be at the outer corners of that, permissive, parenting styles, but you can be also in the center of that, where you're playing, just making like a perfect soup. A little bit of salt, a little bit of spices. You cannot just pour salt and it's too salty, and then you pour something else like lemons to get rid of it. We want to make sure that we don't get stuck with one particular parenting style because we end up in a problem. We are becoming a bad example.
Too much of anything isn't good. Too much of the same food, it could be a superfood. Too much krill is not good. You can't, too much salmon oil, that ain't good. And it's the same way. So I support balance a great deal. And I think that's where you're leading. Balance not only nutritionally, but within the family and your life with the dog.
So we have already a good question of Connie. How does it apply to a pup who I whelped and does not see me other than once or twice a month, recognizing me a minute she sees me?
So Connie's saying, and hi Connie, she is saying, she's a good friend of mine. She's saying that how do dogs recognize their mother or the whelper, or how do they do that if you only see them once every few months, which Mastiffs do seem to be uncannily able to do?
Well, the answer is the first imprint, recognizing who is there for you in the very beginning. It's like the exchange of vibration and energy that comes in. I have experience with my mother that she raised me until I was 3, and then I basically didn't remember her. I don't know who she was until I was 17, and I met her over a distance of 5-story homes. So I was looking up and I was seeing 3 mothers standing at the balcony looking down at me. That was in Athens, in Greece. So people hang at the balconies watching around. And I had to pick my mother of those 3 women. Why did I pick right? What made me pick the right woman to say hi of those 3? There's something that made that connection. And I think that's an energetic part. So the first imprint period, and Konrad Lorenz, the inventor of the imprint, we're going to talk about that at some point. He raised geese, and these geese saw him as a parent. They were following them.
They followed him in a plane, didn't he?
No, that was the inventor. But later on, there was a guy who actually recreated that, and the geese were. He taught them how to fly using, an ultralight plane.
Yep.
Why is that? Because once you have this energetic connection as giving birth, other than being the parent itself, you have these string connections. This quantum physics. You connect with that. You always think of that. That connection becomes aware. And that connection stays in this early stage. Later on, if the puppy gets older, those experiences, those new friends that come in, don't have the same value as the ones who came in with birth, like the first, let's say, 6-7 weeks. Now, we don't want to remove the dogs too early from the litter, so that's why we said 8 to 12 weeks to change the homes. But we also need to see that we need to find balance. We want the dogs to learn as much as possible from their own family, and then we bring them into our own family. So that transition period is the overlapping. So we are kind of at the last edge of this overlapping family-oriented belief that this is my family. And then it shifts away. Then whoever is less. And those guys who have Presa Canario know exactly what I'm talking about. The first 2 weeks, if the dog moves in a new home, whoever is there in that family, that is considered family, and then the window closes and you have hard time getting in.
So it's just a very profound, imprintive time for the puppy, and that's why you can recognize.
It's kind of like your first relationship. You'll never forget your first relationship, either way, good or bad. It sticks there.
So, and that makes sense because you do see that with other species and things like that, and humans. So, it's just a very profound thing, and they're probably very needy at that time, which makes you a very important entity in their life.
So we see here, Leslie also comes with the next question. How do we get our youngest Mastiff to stop demanding the attention all the time? I have video evidence. How many people touch their puppy as it comes up? Because it's so stinking cute. Your hand automatically is being attracted like a magnet. Flip! And it goes right to his head and right to his body. We have the emotional need to touch them. And I feel this is where we start creating a need, a job description. Whenever you want, I will be available. And that creates another need.
The spoiled brat.
Yeah, no, it's not the dog's fault. If the dog doesn't have that availability, then he feels you don't like him anymore because you create a job description. You appreciate the dog coming up to you all the time, and now you say, I don't like you because I don't pay attention to you, and you create separation anxiety. While the original separation anxiety, the natural separation anxiety, puts a dog into a freeze mode. My mother leaves, I'm frozen, I'm not doing anything, I'm just staying there until she's back. Naturally, it will fade out as he confirms that the mother always comes back when she leaves, and then the separation anxiety goes away. Our human-created separation anxiety comes from touching the puppy every time the dog comes over. And so we create that vicious link. If you're not here and I don't pet you, I don't love you. I don't care for you. Therefore, if I'm here not paying attention to you, you're going to die, because we trigger the sympathetic survival response. If you don't get what you want, you're going to die. If I don't pay attention, you're going to die. If I'm not here, you're gonna die. It's a in the brain hardwired fear response, and we have to get it away. You will survive on your bed. I'm here loving you anyway. I will be here loving you anyway, even if I'm not visible, but I'm around the corner. You can survive that. See? It's still happening and you're still good. Nothing happened. So we need to desensitize that from a dog's mind and heal that aspect. Without you are going to die. And I know it
Ron,
sounds extreme. Go ahead.
I'll be right back. There's a drawback to drinking coffee
Oh,
live, so I'll be
better.
right back. You just let you know.
Okay. So for you guys who have any questions, we have 15 minutes left. You can ask any questions you want except our shoe size and that kind of stuff that we don't want. But you can anything you want to ask about dogs, mastiffs, dog foods. I would say stick to the subject. So today we're talking about parenting, imprint period, and yeah, the one that I was talking today, you can guys Google it. I'll post it here. And I would like you to Google it. Talk about imprint period. And I posted in the comments so you guys can look it up. There you go. So Conrad Lawrence had a Nobel Prize for looking into that aspect and how humans and animals connect. And it was actually the beginning of anthrozoology, connecting the dots between human and animals bond. And he got a Nobel Prize for that. And I feel that was my wake-up call when I started reading his book. I was like, wow, I didn't connect those dots. So yeah, Conrad Lawrence is the father of anthrozoology and bringing that aspect of animal care and animal parenting to the next level. And I would definitely encourage you guys to read up on that. Get one of his books. He's an Austrian, obviously smart, right? Yeah. Anyone have any questions? So while you guys typing, I'm gonna pull something up for you guys.
I
See,
go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to show Ringo while you're talking about your stuff,
So cool.
and I will pull Ringo jumping on in the car because kind of you have a slow motion video, I kind of like it.
He's just so smooth. I can't. It's not that it's just and he does it on his own. You can't even really stop him. A lot of times he does that, and I'm going, but he's done it all his life, or not most of his life, since he physically could, and so since a young fella, and and the other two can't. They kind of step in, but he's just. It's a cool vid. I like that one.
So Glenda asked, is this going to be a continuous thing, coffee with you too? Truly hope so. Well, you know what? It depends on our coffee. If I have a coffee, I'll do it.
I'm anytime if you guys like doing this, I mean, it spreads awareness. A lot of questions get answered. We get to bounce ideas. Roman has taught me a lot of things, and I'm hard headed about some of the stuff. One conversation we had that I hope to touch base on was this pack leader. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't feel like I'm leading Ringo. I can tell you that right now.
I feel one of those our next sessions we should be talking about the leadership in general.
Yes, because go ahead. This is your area.
There's a lot of misconception out there, and I think we should keep the record straight. Not because we're doing better than everybody else, but we're advocating for force-free and stress-free dog parenting. And I feel certain ways of thinking and a certain way of approaching our dogs can be very stressful and can also bring in problems. So we have some other questions before we're closing. We have 10 minutes to go. So, um, any suggestion on how to make her not to be jealous and attention hog? Okay, so create boundaries for yourself. Your dog is not allowed to follow you in the bathroom, and that doesn't come abruptly. You have to teach your dog how to remain on his couch, on his bed, wherever he stays, and not trigger by you walking away. So teaching the dog that as you walk away, you'll come back. And I'm happy on our Facebook group. I think we have a couple of videos to teach the dog to sit and stay. And if you guys have certain requests, like, hey, I need to see that. I'm sure I don't have Mastiffs here. I have a Cane Corso, and he's like such a smooth face. But I can talk to Joe, and Joe will set it up to show you how to do that in real space, because in my RV I don't have that space to do that. I cannot even hide from the dogs, kind of thing. I have to really lock myself in the bathroom, and we can work on that. So other suggestions. What do we have here? Yeah. So we have to be, Aaron, that's a great question. You have to see that some dogs are overweight. Some dogs have inflammations because of a low quality food. We're going to talk about that in details. Some dogs have joint issues. Some dogs have arthritis. Some dogs have vaccinosis, side effects of vaccinations.
And
Some dogs have.
let me
Yes?
interject too. One of the reasons swimming is very important to me. It's almost a test that
Right.
that in order to be a fur beetle, you got to end up being able to and being comfortable in the water. Is because if you had any joint issues or problem, you don't go swimming. When you feel confident enough to get in that water and swim, knowing that if you're not functioning right, you're going down, you just don't do it. So a lot of times it can just be a sore muscle or some inflammation in a joint, where a little bit of nutrition will give them that confidence they feel they need to overcome that barrier. And I'll tell you what, once you get them in that water, there's no better exercise. I mean, if you look at a swimmer's body, there's muscles you never use. And, you think your dog is fit, and then you go work him an hour, in the water, and he gets sore just like you do. Not joints, but their muscles get
Right.
sore. They'll get up, and then a day goes by, and the next time that soreness goes away, and it just progresses from there. But swimming is a huge indicator that your dog overall is feeling good and pretty healthy. So that's just one
So
tip.
overcoming fear doorways. It's not really fear of doorways, is fear of transition. I know it sounds weird, but your dog has similar issues going from the carpet onto a floor, from one room to another. Dogs think in a different way than we think. For the dog is leaving something and going into something else. That going into is the problem. Some dogs have difficulties processing the transition from one place to another. That can be helped. Some of them is emotional related. So some dogs have trauma in transitioning. Some dogs have difficulty processing transitioning. There is a help that we can talk about at some point. All these questions that you guys have today, we will map out, and you guys will be able to follow with them. We're going to start creating groups of entities like leadership and parenting together, like jumping in the car and health issues coming together. And so that transition is easy helped by start creating an obedience task, and when we can use that task to help the dog transition more often one place to the other. But you cannot pull your dog in, you cannot push your dog in. He has to become comfortable making those decisions, going from point A to point B without being able to predict the future. That's kind of a weird thing. Yes, we're going to talk about leadership, definitely. I kind of call it more parenting. I know the leadership hits me so weird in the brain, but it's just me maybe. Um, is there more than one period, imprint period? Yes. Yes, I see there's more than one print. So we have the birth print imprint period, which makes the dog I wouldn't say it really characterizes the dog. It makes that line. This is who I am. This is what I do. I see the dogs who move into new homes, they go into a re-imprint period, but not as important in the first imprint period. It's kind of like us going into a new relationship. So we have the first relationship that imprints how we see relationships in general, and then we have the other relationships that we come in and say, I want to make better than that. I want to make it different than that. And obviously we go with the same patterns, unless become aware of what we messed up in the beginning, and then we make that change. So similar with dogs, nature has that automatic safety valve that says if you didn't work out the first imprint period, going into a new game, you're going to use your memory of things in the past and you're going to create a new experience in the new one. And nature gives that 42 rounds in average. So if you try 42 times something that doesn't work for you, it's being erased. So a dog would never get stuck in an experience. So naturally, the dog is inclined to evolve as a species, and going forward, if 42 times in average doesn't work, it's being rejected. Okay, so how does it apply when you're fostering or when? Exactly, that's my point. So you have a 4-week window. That's not really a time frame. It's a sequence of events. We're gonna with that particular chapter. I have a whole document. I'm gonna happy to share with you if you reach out to me. And of course, we're gonna share it at some point on both sides, because I feel there's a misconception of those 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months kind of concept. It's a great concept to kind of share information, like making people aware there is something that you have to follow. But I disagree with this absolute concept in 3 days, in 3 weeks, in 3 months. Dogs don't have this time frame. It's how they create the relationship. If there is trauma involved, if there's a medical issue involved, that factor changes. But at least I would like you guys to know who are working with fostering that there are other aspects to that that are more important than those 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. There is a process into that. Yes, Steve, how has your Reiki knowledge helped you with their behaviors? A lot. I was not a believer in Reiki. I felt like um, I remember my first Reiki experience. I have two people touching my back, and I was like, "Ew, what are they doing?" And they were like, "Oh, we're doing Reiki," and I was like, "You guys are so weird." I mean, I felt good after that. That kind of like triggered my thoughts, but I tried to have this engineering experience, like what happened, what is technically happening here. Um, it took me a couple of years to kind of connect the dots and see that energy is something that we don't see, but it's working, and become later. And my wife was helping me out here to become a Reiki master teacher, and I learned a lot from them about working with energies, and that is a whole complete new world. So Reiki is a window into understanding how energy flows, how energy responds, and if you can affect a person with Reiki, you can affect a dog with Reiki. um, uh, we do classes in energy healing, not only Reiki in particular, but basically open window on how to apply energy in animal behavior. And actually, I do also mentoringship in behavior healing, applying energy work in conjunction with other techniques to modify behavior, such as aggression and other stuff. Um, that's the case. Slow thinking. Yes. Yes. Now, I don't give it titles. It's a chapter we should talk about. We should dedicate it an hour to talk about that. So we are almost by the end. We have covered in a minute. Um, what do you guys think? How do you like that concept of coffee chat we have? Do you guys want more of that? Do you want it like every second week?
I think we didn't even come close to touching base on some of the stuff we've even privately spoken about. I don't feel near finished, and I'd be willing to do this whenever it suits you and when we can get it worked out. But I really enjoy this. Your insight helps me. I hope it helps other people. So if you're in, I would do this scheduled or regularly until we run out of material.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't think so. Every dog has a new chapter, right?
Between me and you, no.
So yeah, okay. My coffee is almost empty, so I definitely have to fill it up. I have another invitation that I had to join in a minute from now, like -1. It's actually a pit bull advocate who kind of wants to raise awareness about how to treat animals that are, bully breeds. And bully breeds and mastiffs have one common denominator. They
Yes,
all
they do.
stem from the same root, from the ancient Molosser breeds. That comes in the history session. So yeah, even if we're done, you guys can still ask a couple of questions. We're gonna simply respond. Sometimes we're gonna share a link.
If you're ever interested, I have a good friend, Marcus Curtis, who's pretty educated in that molasses breed. He works with it. Yep, I'll talk to him, and yeah, I'll
Make sure
get
he
him.
has the coffee.
He's like me. He doesn't turn down an opportunity to spread awareness and stuff like that and discuss things. So I'll talk to him and see if you can get a segment with him about the roots of the breed, because it's really an area that he studies quite heavily.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Today we had another coffee with Mastiff Dads. Joe and Roman sharing with you guys our experience, our mistakes, our plans and rules, and whatever we know, we share openly, and you guys are open to help. So we are both force-free, and we're both stress-free parenting advocates. So we're not advocating for harness, for choke collars, shock collars, and prong collars. That's not. We're offering alternative solutions that works much better than those. Thanks everyone for watching, and thank you for joining us by coffee.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.